The grand chamber of the Galactic Council stretched toward the stars, its crystal dome revealing the three suns of Centauri Prime. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood at the center of it all, her diplomatic uniform bearing Earth's symbol of a rising phoenix. She was supposed to be discussing trade routes and cultural exchange programs. Instead, she found herself scanning the faces of the alien representatives, trying to understand where things had gone so wrong. The council chamber held 27 species, each more exotic than the last. The jellyfish-like hydrani floated in their water tanks. The crystalline Vex sparkled under the starlight. The machine minds of the Cortex hummed in their metal shells. But today, something felt different. The usual polite murmurs were replaced by tense silence. Distinguished members of the council, Sarah began, her voice steady despite her growing unease. Earth comes before you as always, with open hands and honest intentions. She activated her holoprojector, displaying trade statistics that showed how human innovation had already improved life across the galaxy. Medical breakthroughs, faster ships, better farming methods. A movement caught her eye. The Vex representative was touching something under his crystalline desk. The Hydrani's water tanks were bubbling more than usual. The Cortex units were all turning away simultaneously. Sarah had been a diplomat for 15 years. She knew when something was wrong. She pressed the emergency beacon on her wrist device, but nothing happened. The chamber had been shielded. The first sign of what was to come was a soft blue glow emerging from the floor. The ceremonial unity field, meant to symbolize the connection between species during important votes, was activating. But this wasn't a voting day. "What are you doing?" Sarah asked, though she already knew. She'd read the classified reports about certain council members fearing humanity's rapid rise, about whispered conversations of containing the human threat. She just hadn't believed they would dare. The blue glow turned white-hot. Sarah felt her skin begin to burn as the modified unity field transformed into a plasma containment grid. But she didn't scream. She didn't beg. Instead, she stood straighter. "You call us dangerous," she said, her voice carrying clearly despite the growing roar of the plasma field. "You fear our adaptability, our creativity, our determination." The pain was becoming unbearable, but she continued. "But you've forgotten something important about humans." The plasma field was now a pillar of light around her. Through it, she could see some council members turning away. Others watched with cold satisfaction. A few, too few, looked horrified, but did nothing. Sarah activated her neural transmitter, broadcasting her final message not just to Earth, but to every communication device in the chamber. Her last gift would be letting her murderers hear exactly what humanity thought of this betrayal. "We forgive," she said, her uniform beginning to char. "We learn. We grow stronger. And we never, ever forget." The plasma field was reaching critical levels. "Remember who we are," Sarah Chen declared, her final words echoing across the galaxy. "Remember what makes us human." The plasma field flared brilliant white. When it faded, Earth's ambassador was gone. For 3 heartbeats, silence filled the chamber. Then the emergency alarms began to sound. The human fleet was moving. All across the galaxy, Earth's ships were going dark, breaking contact, vanishing into the depths of space. The Galactic Council had made their move. Now they would learn why every species that had ever underestimated humanity had come to regret it. The first sign that something was wrong came when the human ships simply disappeared. Not through violence or dramatic action. They just left. One by one, every human vessel across the galaxy powered down its transponders and vanished into the darkness of space. Admiral Vexthar of the Crystalline Confederation watched the reports flood in with growing unease. He had opposed Ambassador Chen's execution, but his voice had been ignored. Now, 3 days after the incident, the silence from Earth was deafening. "Surely they must be planning an attack," his second-in-command said, crystal fragments clicking nervously. "We should prepare our defense fleets." But no attack came. Instead, human colonies across the galaxy began shutting down their trade operations. Mining stations went dark. Research facilities closed their doors. Within a week, every human presence in alien space had vanished without firing a single shot. The Council tried to maintain calm, but panic was spreading. The galaxy's economy had become surprisingly dependent on human goods and services. Medical facilities that rely on human biotech began struggling. Ships using human-designed engine improvements found themselves without technical support. "They're strangling us without firing a shot," observed Hydrani High Commander Zulax, her tentacles swirling in agitation. "But why haven't they attacked? Their fleet could strike anywhere." A month passed. Then, too, the Council's more aggressive members began to relax, believing they had successfully cowed humanity into submission. They were wrong. On the first day of the third month, every communication device in Council space activated simultaneously. The face that appeared wasn't angry or threatening. It was simply a young human woman who looked remarkably like the late Ambassador Chen. "I am Lisa Chen, daughter of Ambassador Sarah Chen," she said calmly. "For 3 months, we have gathered evidence. Now, we will share truth." What followed was devastating. Financial records showing which Council members had been bribed to support the assassination. Secret communications revealing the plot. Surveillance footage from the Council chamber itself, showing every person who had participated in or simply allowed the murder to happen. But it wasn't just about the assassination. The humans had spent 3 months digging deeper, uncovering centuries of corruption, secret deals, and oppression of lesser species. The Council's darkest secrets were laid bare for every citizen of every world to see. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Protests erupted on 1,000 worlds. Lesser species, long kept from Council membership, demanded justice. Even among the Council races, citizens were horrified by their leaders' actions. "This is how humans fight," Lisa Chen continued, her voice carrying across the galaxy. "Not with planet killers or doomsday weapons, but with truth. You thought you could murder our ambassador and hide in the shadows. But we are humanity. We shine light into darkness." She paused, letting her words sink in. "You feared our weapons, but forgot that knowledge is the deadliest weapon of all. You worried about our ships, but ignored that trust, once broken, is the hardest thing to rebuild." The broadcast ended with a simple message. "This is only the beginning. Remember who we are. Remember what makes us human." In his crystal tower, Admiral Vexthar watched as his civilization began to crack under the weight of exposed truth. The humans hadn't needed to fire a single shot to shake the galaxy to its foundations. And somewhere in the darkness of space, the human fleet was waiting, ready for whatever would come next. The Cortex warship opened fire on the human vessel, expecting an easy kill. 3 months of silence had made the machine minds overconfident. The plasma beams, similar to the ones that had killed Ambassador Chen, streaked across space toward their target. But something impossible happened. The human ship didn't explode. Instead, it glowed with a familiar blue light. The same kind of light that had filled the Council chamber 3 months ago. "Impossible," the Cortex commander's electronic voice crackled. They couldn't have. But they had. During those 3 months of silence, every human ship had been modified. The plasma containment technology that killed their ambassador had been studied, improved, and turned into something new. Something nobody in the galaxy had ever seen before. The human ship's captain, James Rodriguez, allowed himself a small smile. "Return fire," he ordered quietly. "Their own weapons, if you please." The blue field around his ship pulsed. Suddenly, the Cortex vessel's plasma beams reversed direction, strengthened by human improvements. The machine minds hadn't even bothered to raise their shields, so certain were they of their superiority. Their ship cracked open like an egg. "No casualties on their side," Rodriguez's tactical officer reported. "Their crew compartment is intact, just like you requested." Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. Human ships appeared from nowhere, their new shields glowing with the same technology that had been meant to destroy them. But where the Council had used it for execution, Humans had transformed it into something greater. In her office on Earth, Lisa Chen watched the reports come in. Not a single human shot had been fired. They were only using the Council's own weapons against them, enhanced by human innovation. "Your mother would be proud," said Admiral Zhang, standing beside her desk. "We've turned their weapon of murder into a shield for peace." Lisa nodded, touching the small phoenix pin that had once belonged to her mother. "They thought they knew what humans were capable of," she said softly. "They thought they could predict us based on their own actions." On the main screen, more reports appeared. The Hydrani fleet, trying to attack a human colony, found their water-based weapons turned back against them. The Vex's crystal energy beams reflected off human shields, forcing them to retreat. Status report. Lisa called out to the command center. "Operation Chen's Legacy is proceeding as planned." A young officer responded. "All targeted military installations are being neutralized. Civilian areas remain untouched. 0 casualties on either side so far." Admiral Zhang shook his head in wonder. "They killed one of us in the most painful way possible, expecting us to respond with blind rage. Instead, we studied their weapon, improved it, and turned it into a shield that protects life rather than takes it." Lisa stood and walked to the window, looking up at the stars. "That's what they never understood about us," she said. "Humans don't just seek revenge. We solve problems. We take what hurts us and transform it into something better." In space, another Cortex ship fired on a human vessel. Again, the blue shield flared. Again, the attacking ship was disabled without a single death. The message was clear. Humanity had learned from tragedy, adapted, and emerged stronger. And they were just getting started. General Maria Santos stood on the bridge of the Earth flagship, Phoenix Rising, watching as her fleet surrounded the Vex homeworld. But unlike traditional sieges, her ships weren't charging weapons or launching fighters. Instead, they were broadcasting. Every screen on the crystalline planet below showed the same images. Vex leadership taking bribes, plotting against other species, and voting to murder Ambassador Chen. The Vex people were learning the truth about their leaders, and they were angry. "Status report from the surface," her communications officer announced. "Protesters are surrounding the Crystal Palace. The Vex military is refusing orders to fire on their own people." Maria nodded. This was humanity's true weapon, not destruction, but truth. On another screen, she watched as human special forces conducted a precision raid on a Hydrani military base. Their new shields made them untouchable as they moved through the facility, disabling weapons and communications. Not a single shot was fired. Not a single life was lost. "Message from Earth Command," her officer called out. "The Cortex resistance has begun. Their machine minds are splitting into factions. The reform movement is gaining strength." The general allowed herself a small smile. The Council's greatest fear had been human violence, human revenge. They had expected planet-killing weapons and massive space battles. Instead, they got something far more dangerous. Humans fighting smart, not hard. In her private quarters later that day, Maria reviewed the campaign's progress. Human forces had disabled 30 major military installations across Council space. They had exposed corruption on 12 worlds. And most importantly, they had done it all without a single civilian casualty. "Your strategy is working perfectly," said her AI assistant, analyzing the data. "Public opinion across the galaxy has shifted 78% in Earth's favor. Even species that once feared us are now calling for alliance." Maria touched the screen, bringing up an image of Ambassador Chen. "We're doing this your way, Sarah," she whispered. "Not with hatred, but with wisdom." The next phase began at dawn. Human ships appeared above every major council world simultaneously. But instead of attacking, they'd broadcast a message from Lisa Chen. "To all citizens of the galaxy, we are not your enemy. We never were. Those who murdered our ambassador wanted you to fear us. Instead, we ask you to judge us by our actions. We have the power to destroy, but we choose to protect. We have the strength to kill, but we choose to spare lives. This is what makes us human." The response was immediate. On the Vex homeworld, Crystal citizens shattered their corrupt government's towers. In Hydrini space, colony worlds declared independence from their oppressive rulers. Among the Cortex, a new program emerged, one that valued cooperation over control. Maria watched it all from her command center, remembering the ancient human text she had studied. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. "General," her officer called out, "we're receiving surrenders from 4 more council facilities. They're asking for amnesty in exchange for evidence of corruption." "Accept their surrender," Maria ordered, "and make sure they understand. We're not here for revenge. We're here to build something better." As she spoke, more reports flooded in. The council was crumbling, not from human weapons, but from the weight of their own exposed sins. And in its place, something new was beginning to emerge. The new Galactic Assembly Hall looked nothing like the old council chamber. Gone were the raised platforms that had placed some species above others. Gone were the shadowy corners where secret deals were made. Instead, a circular chamber of transparent crystal stretched toward the stars, allowing light to touch every corner. Lisa Chen stood at its center, wearing a diplomatic uniform bearing both Earth's phoenix and a new symbol, a circle of joined hands representing all species united. Around her sat representatives from every spacefaring race, including those the old council had kept out. 3 months ago, Lisa began, "My mother stood in a different chamber and died for believing in a better future. Today, we honor her vision by building it." The gathered delegates listened quietly. Among them sat reformed council members who had helped expose corruption. Next to them were representatives from species that had been denied voices for centuries. Even the guilty species were present, though their new leaders watched with humble eyes. The old council feared human strength. Lisa continued, "They were right to fear it, but they feared the wrong thing. They thought our strength lay in our ships, our weapons, our technology. But that was never what made us strong." She touched the phoenix pin on her collar, her mother's pin, recovered from the ashes of the old council chamber. "Human strength lies in our ability to learn, to forgive, to build something better from the ruins of what was destroyed. When you killed our ambassador, you expected revenge. Instead, we gave you revolution, not through violence, but through truth and justice." On screens around the chamber, images appeared. Human ships using their shield technology to protect alien civilian vessels from space pirates. Earth hospitals treating victims of the Council's oppression. Human teachers sharing knowledge with species that had been kept ignorant. "The new charter is simple," Lisa said, bringing up the document. "All species have equal voice. All decisions must be transparent. And most importantly, all members must send their young diplomats to live among other species, learning their ways, understanding their perspectives." She smiled slightly. "Yes, even Earth will host diplomats from those who once harmed us, because that is what makes us human. The ability to rise above pain and create hope." The vote was unanimous. As the charter was approved, the chamber's crystal walls shifted color, not to the artificial blue of the old Unity field, but to the natural colors of a sunrise. Later, in a quiet moment, Lisa stood with Admiral Zhang and General Santos on a balcony overlooking the new capital city. Ships from 100 species moved peacefully through the skyways. "Your mother would be proud," Zhang said softly. "We didn't just avenge her death. We made it mean something." Lisa nodded, watching as a group of young alien diplomats passed below, chatting excitedly about their upcoming assignments on Earth. "That's the real victory," General Santos observed. "Not defeating them, but transforming them, making them understand. The galaxy feared us because they thought we were like them," Lisa said. "Now they respect us because we proved we're different." She touched her mother's pin one last time. "We remember who we are. We remember what makes us human." Above them, the 3 suns of Centauri Prime set in a blaze of color, illuminating the dawn of a new era, one built not on fear and power, but on understanding and hope. Humanity had faced its greatest test and emerged not just victorious, but enlightened, proving that true strength lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the wisdom to build something better from the ashes of conflict.